Robocop. I love Robocop. It is one of my favorite movies of all time. It is fantastic. Love it. If you haven't seen it, watch it because it's awesome. Robocop 2. I love Robocop 2 also. Not one of my favorite movies of all time, but for whatever it does wrong, there is a ton that sequel gets right. Robocop 3, it's got a couple moments, one or two. It's pretty roundly awful. So we never got a Robocop 4. There was a cartoon the only memory of the cartoon I have is Robocop trying to hold something that's running away from him, something heavy like a truck, and long pieces of metal just shoot out of his feet, anchoring him into the ground. That's about all I remember. Something to do with he's stuck in a car crusher too. That's really all I remember. There was also a 4-episode miniseries called Prime Directives, if I'm recalling correctly. That was not too bad. Anyway, big Robocop fan. I'm gonna watch the remake of Robocop, which I meant to see in the theaters but never got around to. I'm actually kind of scared to watch this because I hear it's terrible. It got pretty poor reviews. Everyone I know whose taste I trust said it's bad. Here's where I'm coming from. I don't want to dislike this movie. I want to like it. Remakes don't bother me. Even remakes of my most beloved properties. Ghostbusters is my favorite movie. They're remaking it or doing another one or rebooting, whatever the hell they're doing. Don't care. More Ghostbusters. Just make a good movie. That's all I want. Robocop. Doesn't have to be the same as the first one. Doesn't have to be the first one. It can be its own thing. Just make a good movie. Please. You know where I first knew there was a problem? Pretty early on. Right near the beginning of the movie, they introduce Alex Murphy. They actually haven't introduced him yet. For all you know, there's just a guy. And they shoot him from behind. The camera's just following along some guy walking through a police station. And the Robocop theme blares. Bum 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 bum. Awesome theme. Love the Robocop theme. Completely inappropriate right there. He's not Robocop yet. We don't even know who the hell he is. He's walking through an office. He's walking through an office. Bum 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 bum. That's when I said, oh no. Oh no. Still a great theme. The soundtrack in this movie is terrible. It's one of the worst I've heard. The music's pretty, most of it's pretty terrible. A lot of it is just completely inappropriate for the scene it's on. Maybe it's just this copy on Netflix, but a lot of the music is not balanced correctly with the rest of the soundtrack. Sometimes it overpowers some of the dialogue. This movie isn't horrible. It's not terrible. It's not good. It's okay. It is kind of hurt by the fact that Robocop is a far superior movie, the original. There's a moment in the movie where the marketers are trying to figure out what Robocop is going to look like. And they show a modernized take on the original Robocop suit. And it's introduced as this is a combat mode or something. It puts the fear of God into the criminals' hearts, and it tested incredibly high, and it's awesome. Because the Robocop design is, maybe it's just my nostalgia goggles, but Robocop is still awesome looking. And the movie is even admitting how badass this design is. And they go with the black suit, which is, it's not, people say, oh, it's a Power Ranger suit. Nah, but it's not that memorable. It's not that cool. I admire and I even like what I think they were trying to do with this film, and they were trying to make it its own thing, which is good. Pardon me, that was disgusting. I'm sorry. Who's the villain in the original Robocop? Well, Dick Jones, one of the head guys at OCP, and one of the criminal guy, Clarence Boddicker. You remember these guys. Who's the bad guy in the new Robocop? Antoine Valen, something like that. I'm surprised I remember that much. OCP, there's really no clear-cut villain in this film, and that's one of the problems, is OCP kind of becomes its own bad guy. If you don't know, the company that makes Robocop, they go out of their way to make their own lives miserable. Nothing in this movie really makes sense. This movie takes place in a world where drones are, ED-209 and humanoid robots that wander around the world and say, "Get out of your home," and they look at you in the eye, and they go, "Okay, you're cool and you're not armed, so go about your business." Except in America, because there's some act, the Newman Act or whatever, the Dreyfus Act, that does not allow robotic police forces and drones wandering around the streets of the U.S., making the world a safe place, even though these things apparently work absolutely flawlessly. Now, granted, that's be kind of annoying for a robot to keep yelling at you to come out of your house with your hands up and scanning you every however many times a day that happens. And that's probably not the free life we all want to live. And I think that's where they're attempting the satire here. However, it works. For example, when Robocop comes in, the crime is cut by 80% with just one unit. Their technology works flawlessly. Never once in this movie does the technology actually fail. It's not dangerous as long as you don't run at it with a... Now, granted, one of the ED-209s does paste... Well, it's PG-13. You kind of have to assume the kid gets pasted. Pastes like a 13-year-old kid with a knife. But that's not a software error. That's exactly what it's supposed to do. It warns you to drop the weapon, and if you don't, it blows you away. That's what it does, so don't brandish weapons at the walking tank. Now, you may argue, you should probably put in a protocol to, don't kill kids or don't kill people with knives, because you're a gigantic tank robot. I think you can take someone with a knife without pasting them, But that doesn't mean the technology doesn't work. That just means there's a bad command in there. Change the law, the robotic law, the lines of code that govern its behavior. Also, with the exception of a 3-second montage somewhere in the middle of the film, Detroit looks fine. They're like, why don't we have robots patrolling our street? It's because everything's fine. This movie does not establish that anything's really wrong. Detroit looks great. It's clean. It's peaceful. The grass is green. The kids are, skipping to school. La 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 la. There doesn't seem to be any pressing need for these robots to police the streets. Everything's fine. Everything is awesome. When Robocop comes online, I said a moment ago that OCP seems to go out of its way to make its own life miserable. One example of that is right before they unveil Alex Murphy as Robocop to the public for the first time. I mean right before. I mean literally like 5 minutes before they trot his metal ass out on stage. They say, hey, you know what? We should upload all of the crime database and all of the CCTV footage from the last 15 years into his noggin. Right before he walks out on stage. I work in Q&A. I could actually see a company doing that. That is stupid, and it bites him in the ass because, Murphy sees CCTV footage of his own murder and kind of freaks out. So they lower his dopamine levels to like 2% so that he has no emotions and doesn't flip out anymore. And so, you have zombie Robocop. He walks out there and he, using the crime database, cross-referencing it with CCTV footage, he identifies a person in the crowd that had been on the lam for like 6 years, and he's, aha, you have the right to miss, and he shoots him with a taser gun, and down he goes. So again, Robocop works perfectly. I'm tired. I may have missed something. So if there are explanations in this movie for the things I'm complaining about and I'm going to complain about, feel free to let me know in the comments. Because, a moth may have distracted me at some point, or I sneezed, or had to vigorously scratch my butt at some point and may have missed an important detail. Jackie Earle Haley plays Maddox or Matrix or something like that. And he's kind of the arch nemesis, maybe, for no real reason other than he likes his robots and Murphy's got a human element and he thinks that's less efficient than the robots. And it is. They prove that. They have Murphy go, run the same simulation against one of the robots and Murphy's like 5 seconds slower. So they take out the human element and he's perfect. Again, everything works perfectly. But then, for some reason, Jackie Earle Haley comes in. He's like, "I'm glad you're." Michael Keaton, the CEO of Omnicorp, says, "I'm glad you're here." He says, "I need a surveillance. I need to see what Robocop sees. I need to be able to track him. I need access to the labs to keep an eye on him." Why? Everything is working perfectly. What are you doing? Murphy at some point ups his own dopamine levels and starts solving his own murder. And we're like, oh no, he's disobeying protocol. He's like, well, he's still doing cop stuff. And he's solving his own murder. And the marketing guy's like, that's brilliant. Why didn't I think of that? I'm like, yeah, again, everything's working perfectly. Which brings to mind, they upload all of the CCTV camera stuff into Murphy's head along with the criminal database. Murphy has the ability to look at a person. This robot technology can, pretty much like that, scan your face, figure out exactly who you are, see if you have an arrest record or if you are wanted. It can even read your emotional state and graph it out and see how likely you are to attack, how nervous you are, or how scared you are, how angry you are, just by, from camera footage. It can look for, within a few seconds, scan all of the CCTV cameras in the city to find one person. Then it can, if it can't find them, go to known aliases and scan all of the CCTV cameras. This is how Robocop goes around. This technology exists. It works flawlessly. Why do you need Robocop or robots? The whole city, which again looks fine, is covered in CCTV cameras. You can recognize everyone through the cameras. It seems to me you could have like a staff of 20 people in a master control room and just dispatch police where they're needed. Ah, well, we found the guy. He's over there. Go get him. Nothing really makes any sense in this movie. Michael Keaton kind of just says, I'm the bad guy now, and pulls the gun. Don't know why. It doesn't really make any sense. They try to kill Robocop at some point, you know. It's not really clear why. Again, he was working fine. I mean, he did kind of reprioritize his caseload so he could work on his own case, his own murder. And then he finds out that, which is what Alex Murphy suspected before he was killed, that 2 cops were dirty and that it went even higher than that. And he busts the cops and he exposes a corruption. And the marketers again are like, wow, that's genius. And it's like, yes, it's working. You don't need to pull the... What is wrong with you people? Everything is working flawlessly. Why are you trying so hard to be the bad guys? See what I mean about how there's more to talk about when you don't like a movie? Big Ass Spider is what I watched yesterday. And I feel like I haven't watched the footage yet, but I feel like I kind of gypped you because I didn't say much other than, it's pretty cool, watch it. And the reason it is, I think the reason is not as unfortunate as, I only like complaining. I don't want to talk about good things. No, I love talking about good things. It's just that, you know, Big Ass Spider is so much fun. I could talk about it for 20, 30 minutes, but I'd spoil all the cool stuff in the movie. And I don't want to do that. I think you might get a kick out of it if you like animal attack type movies. So let's focus on some things I actually liked about RoboCop. As I said a little bit ago, I like what I think they were trying to do. Robots are policing the world, and it's working. But we're not comfortable doing that here because we don't trust a fully automated police force, a fully automated peacekeeping unit. So Omnicorp says, okay, well, we're losing money. So how about a cyborg? We put a man in the robot. And then they find out, well, the man is not as efficient because man has a conscience and biases and anger and emotion. And, if a bad guy has a hostage, a computer is just going to shoot the bad guy. A human might try to talk the bad guy down. It's less efficient. So they try to kind of suppress the humanness of the cyborg. So essentially they're selling the pure robot. They're just dressing it up in a human skin to try and slip it under the rules. That's an interesting angle. I like that. I like a lot of the ideas of a lot of the things that we film fans complain about the RoboCop movie are things that seem to be designed by committee. Like RoboCop's design, the sleek jet black look. That looks like focus tested. It looks like a group of marketers who don't know, like, or care about any of this stuff tried to figure out what was cool. It's like, oh, well, black is cool and it's edgy and it's extreme with an X. And, and that's annoying, but that's appropriate for this particular film because this RoboCop is designed by committee, or, well, by Michael Keaton at least. He's like, let's go with black just because it's awesome. RoboCop has his right hand is his actual human hand instead of complete prosthesis. And we all, as film fans, hear that and we're like, oh, that's stupid because so he could shake someone's hand. But again, that's a design by committee type of thing that I could totally see them doing. It's like we want, because people are uncomfortable with pure robots. We want people to be able to see and touch, tactile experience the humanness of this thing, so it can shake your hand and by God, it is human. That's a good idea. I like that. I think that works. I don't mind the fact that RoboCop's incredibly badass gun is replaced with a taser, because that works perfectly well too. That fits. Of course, in his other leg is a gun. And if I can go back to a problem with the film, PG-13 means it's hard to tell if someone's being shot with the taser or the gun, because there's no blood splatter and people just kind of fall the same regardless of how the sound effect's different. But I kind of like the fact that that works. The movie does not. Nothing makes any sense. There's no clear-cut villain. Lewis, his partner Lewis, has almost nothing to do in this movie. Yeah. I didn't like it. Better luck tomorrow.